My stepfather raised me for 25 years. Then he died and left me nothing. His biological son, a gambling addict who'd barely spoken to him in a decade, got everything. The estate, the money, the legacy I'd worked my entire life to earn. But that wasn't the real betrayal. My name is Victoria Chen, and this is the story of how fighting for my inheritance uncovered a murder, exposed a blackmailer, and forced me to choose between the truth and the person I loved most. My stepfather died on a Sunday morning in April. Heart failure, after 6 months of declining health. He was 73. Robert Morrison had been in my life since I was 5 years old, longer than I'd known my biological father, who died when I was 4. Robert married my mother, Elena, raised me as his own daughter, paid for my education, walked me down the aisle at my wedding, and was the only father I'd ever really known. When he got sick, I was the one who took him to doctor appointments, managed his medications, sat with him during the bad days. Not Kevin, his biological son from his first marriage. Kevin was too busy gambling away his trust fund in Vegas to visit his dying father. So when the lawyer called us in for the will reading 3 days after the funeral, I assumed I'd inherit at least part of the estate. Maybe split it with Kevin. That seemed fair. I was wrong. The meeting was held at Morrison & Associates, the law firm Robert had founded 40 years ago, now run by his former partner, David Walsh. David's office overlooked downtown Seattle, all dark wood and leather chairs. Mom sat beside me, looking exhausted in her black dress. Kevin sat across from us, fidgeting, checking his phone every 30 seconds. Kevin Morrison was 35, 3 years older than me. We'd grown up together after Robert and Mom got married, but we'd never been close. Kevin resented his father for divorcing his mother, resented my mom for replacing her, and resented me for being Dad's favorite, even though that wasn't true. By the time he was 20, Kevin had developed a serious gambling problem. Dad had bailed him out repeatedly, sent him to rehab twice, finally cut him off financially 5 years ago. Kevin had been living off credit cards and loans ever since, occasionally showing up to ask Dad for one more chance. Now Kevin was here to collect his inheritance. The only question was how much. David cleared his throat. Before we begin, I want to say how sorry I am about Robert. He was my partner, my mentor, and my friend for 4 decades. His loss is immeasurable. Thank you, David, Mom said quietly. David opened a folder. Robert's will was updated 2 months ago, while he was still of sound mind and body. I prepared it myself at his request. 2 months ago, right after Dad's cancer diagnosis, when the doctor said he had 6 months at most, the will is straightforward. To his wife Elena, Robert leaves the house in Bellevue and a trust fund providing $10,000 per month for life. Mom nodded. That was generous. The house was worth $3 million, and the monthly income would keep her comfortable forever. To his stepdaughter, Victoria Chen, Robert leaves his personal effects, his law books, and his gratitude for her devotion. I felt like I'd been slapped. That's it? His law books? And to his son, Kevin Morrison, Robert leaves the entirety of his remaining estate, Morrison & Associates law firm, all financial accounts, investment properties, and liquid assets. Total value approximately $40 million. Silence. Kevin looked as shocked as I felt. 40 million? Dad left Kevin everything? I said. The son who hasn't spoken to him in 2 years? Who's gambled away every dollar Dad ever gave him? Victoria? Mom started. No, this is insane. Dad wouldn't do this. Kevin, tell them. Tell them you know this is wrong. Kevin looked uncomfortable. I mean, I'm surprised too. But Victoria, it's Dad's will. His decision. Your decision was to blow your trust fund at poker tables. My decision was to be there for him every single day. Which one of us deserved his legacy? Victoria? That's enough, David said firmly. I understand you're upset, but this will was prepared legally, signed by Robert, witnessed properly, and filed with the court. It's valid. Then, I'm contesting it. Dad was sick, on heavy medications. He wasn't thinking clearly. He was completely lucid when we prepared this. I have medical documentation proving his mental competency. Then he was coerced, manipulated. I looked at Kevin. You did this. You convinced him somehow. I didn't do anything. I haven't even talked to Dad since Christmas. Exactly. So why would he leave you everything? Kevin stood up. Maybe because I'm his actual son, his blood. You're just the stepdaughter. The words hit like a physical blow. Kevin, Mom gasped. What? It's true. Victoria's been playing daughter for 25 years, but she's not really family. Not by blood. I stood up too, my hands shaking. Get out. This is my inheritance meeting. Get out. David intervened. Everyone, please. This is an emotional time. I suggest we adjourn and reconvene when tempers have cooled. Victoria, if you want to contest the will, you have that right. But I should warn you, it will be expensive, time-consuming, and based on what I saw of Robert's mental state, unlikely to succeed. I hired a lawyer the next day. Patricia Monroe, one of the best estate attorneys in Seattle, agreed to take my case. Contesting a will is difficult, Patricia said when I met her at her downtown office. But there are grounds. Undue influence is the strongest argument if we can prove Kevin manipulated your stepfather while he was vulnerable. Kevin claims he barely talked to Dad. Can we prove he did? We'll subpoena phone records, email, text messages. If Kevin was in contact with Robert during his illness, we can build a case that he used that access to influence the will. What about Dad's mental state? He was on morphine, pain medication. The lawyer already has medical documentation showing competency, but medications can still affect judgment. We'll have our own doctors review his medical records. How long will this take? Months, maybe a year. And Victoria, you should know Kevin will fight back. He'll hire his own lawyers and they'll try to prove you're the one who manipulated Robert. I didn't manipulate anyone. I loved him. I took care of him. Patricia gave me a sympathetic look. I believe you. But Kevin's lawyers will argue that constant presence equals control, that you isolated Robert from Kevin, poisoned him against his biological son, and manipulated him into leaving you the estate. So, they'll make me the villain. They'll try, which is why we need ironclad evidence of Kevin's influence. Anything you can find, conversations, visits, anything that shows Kevin was working on, Robert, bring it to me. I filed the contest 2 weeks later. Kevin's lawyers responded immediately with a counter-motion, claiming I was acting out of greed and had no legitimate grounds. Then things got weird. Kevin called me, his voice panicked. Victoria, we need to talk. In person. Now. I'm not meeting with you. Anything you want to say goes through the lawyers. This isn't about the will. Someone's following me. What? A guy in a black sedan. He's been parked outside my apartment for 3 days. When I leave, he follows. When I stop, he stops. Victoria, I think someone's watching me. Kevin, you're paranoid. Probably from the stress. I'm not paranoid. Someone is actually following me. And I think it's connected to Dad. To the will. Why would anyone follow you over Dad's will? I don't know. But Victoria, I'm scared. Can we meet? Please? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop downtown. Kevin looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, constantly checking over his shoulder. When did this start? I asked. About a week ago, right after you filed the contest. At first I thought it was just coincidence, same car in the neighborhood. But then I saw him at the grocery store, at the gym, everywhere I went. He's following me, Victoria. Did you call the police? And tell them what? That I think someone's following me? They'll think I'm crazy. Have you gotten a good look at him? White guy, 50s, short gray hair, drives a black Chevy sedan. That's all I could see. Kevin, have you been gambling again? He looked offended. What? No, because if you owe money to the wrong people, that would explain why someone's following you. I haven't gambled in months. This isn't about debt. This is something else. Then what? Kevin hesitated. I don't know. But Victoria, I think it might be connected to you, to your investigation. My investigation into the will? Yeah, maybe someone doesn't want you digging into Dad's death, into how the will was changed. That's ridiculous. Who would care enough to follow you? I don't know, but be careful. If someone's watching me, they might be watching you too. I didn't believe Kevin about being followed. But I did hire a private investigator to look into his activities over the past year. If Kevin had been in contact with Dad during his illness, I needed proof. The PI, Marcus Reed, called me 3 days later. Miss Chen, I've reviewed Kevin Morrison's movements over the past 12 months. Phone records, credit cards, everything I could access legally. And? Kevin visited your stepfather exactly once during his illness. November 15th, about 4 months before Robert died. He drove to the house in Bellevue, stayed 90 minutes, then left. No other visits. Just once? Are you sure? Positive. And there's something else. Kevin's been making large cash withdrawals, $5,000 every 2 weeks for the past 8 months. Always from different ATMs, always in cash. Gambling debts? Possibly. But there's no evidence of him visiting casinos or gambling websites. The money just disappears. Where's it going? I don't know. But, Miss Chen, $5,000 every 2 weeks is $10,000 a month. That's $80,000 over 8 months. Where is Kevin getting that kind of money? He has no job, no income source I can find. Maybe Dad was giving it to him. Your stepfather cut Kevin off financially 5 years ago. I checked Robert's bank records, no transfers to Kevin in the past 3 years. Then where is Kevin getting the money? That's what we need to find out. 2 weeks later, Kevin's lawyers made a move. They filed a motion claiming I had manipulated Robert during his illness, isolated him from Kevin, and used undue influence to try to change the will in my favor. As evidence, they provided emails I'd sent to Robert's doctors, asking them to limit visitors due to his weakened immune system. They argued I deliberately kept Kevin away so I could control Dad's final months. This is a classic isolation tactic, Kevin's attorney argued in court. Victoria Chen systematically cut Kevin Morrison out of his father's life, then attempted to manipulate the will. When that failed, she filed this frivolous contest. Patricia defended me fiercely, but the damage was done. The media picked up the story. Stepdaughter accused of elder manipulation and $40 million will battle. Suddenly, I wasn't the devoted daughter fighting for justice. I was the scheming stepdaughter who'd tried to steal her stepbrother's inheritance. Mom called me that night, crying. Victoria, what have you done? I'm fighting for what's right, Mom. Dad wouldn't have wanted Kevin to get everything. But the things they're saying about you, that you manipulated him, isolated him, it's not true. You know it's not true. You were there. Did I manipulate Dad? Mom hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but I heard it. Mom? No, of course not. You took wonderful care of him. But Victoria, maybe you should drop this. Maybe Robert had his reasons for the will. What reasons? Kevin's a gambling addict who ignored Dad for years. Kevin is still his son. His blood. Maybe that mattered to Robert more than we realized. Are you seriously defending Kevin right now? I'm trying to keep this family from destroying itself. You and Kevin are the only children I have. I can't watch you tear each other apart over money. This isn't about money, Mom. This is about Dad's legacy, about respect, about 25 years of being his daughter, only to be told I meant nothing. You meant everything to him. He loved you. Then why did he leave me nothing? Mom was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, sweetheart. I wish I did. But please think about dropping this, before it gets worse. It got worse. Kevin's lawyers found a witness, Robert's night nurse, who claimed she'd seen me arguing with Dad 2 weeks before he died. She said I'd been pressuring him to change his will, that he'd become upset and told me to leave. It was a lie. I'd never argued with Dad about the will. I didn't even know what was in it until after he died, but the nurse was credible, professional, convincing. Patricia was furious. This is perjury. They're paying her to lie. Can we prove it? Not without evidence of payment, and they'll have been careful. Cash, offshore accounts, nothing traceable. So what do? We fight, we find our own witnesses. We prove Kevin's character issues, his gambling, his estrangement from Robert. We make the judge question why Robert would leave everything to an addict who abandoned him. But every time we pushed, Kevin's lawyers pushed back harder. They had resources. Kevin's $40 million inheritance could pay for an army of lawyers. I had my savings quickly running out. 3 months into the battle, I was exhausted. The legal fees were crushing me. The media attention was destroying my reputation. My law firm had put me on leave, saying the publicity was bad for business. And then Kevin called again. Victoria, I need to talk to you. It's important. Kevin, I can't, the lawyers said. Fuck the lawyers. This is about Mom. What about Mom? Meet me at the house. Dad's house. Tonight at 8 p.m. Come alone. And Victoria, don't tell anyone. Especially not Mom. He hung up before I could respond. I drove to Dad's house in Bellevue. The place where I'd grown up, where Dad had taught me to ride a bike in the driveway, where we'd celebrated every holiday and birthday. Mom had moved out after Dad died, said it was too painful to stay. The house sat empty, waiting to be sold as part of the estate settlement. Kevin's car was already in the driveway. I found him in Dad's study, sitting at the desk where Dad used to work. He looked like he'd aged 10 years and 3 months. Kevin, What's this about? He pulled out a folder. I need to show you something. But first, you have to promise you won't go to the police. What? No. I'm not promising anything. Victoria, please. This is bigger than the will. Bigger than both of us. Tell me what's going on. Kevin opened the folder and pulled out documents. A will, but not the one David Walsh had read to us. This will was dated 6 months before Dad died, and it left everything to me. What is this? Dad's real will, Kevin said. The one he actually wanted. I read through it, my hands shaking. Robert Morrison leaves his entire estate to his beloved stepdaughter, Victoria Chen, who has been more of a child to him than his biological son. This can't be real. David showed us a different will. Because I made him. I found this will in Dad's safe 2 days after he died, before the official reading. And I panicked. I called David, told him there was a problem. I said I had information that would destroy our family if it came out, and I threatened to release it unless he found a different will. You blackmailed Dad's lawyer? I blackmailed everyone. David, Mom, even the nurse who testified against you. I paid them all to support the fake will. Why? Why would you do this? Because I'm desperate, Kevin shouted. Because I'm being blackmailed. Because someone knows something about our family that would destroy all of us, and I need money to keep them quiet. Blackmailed about what? Kevin pulled out more documents. Police reports. News articles. All about my biological father's death 30 years ago. Your dad, Thomas Chen, didn't die in an accident, Victoria. He was murdered. And the person who killed him was Mom. I stared at the documents, not believing what I was reading. Man found dead in home. Wife questioned Elena Chen. Released after questioning in husband's death medical examiner. Rules death accidental. Mom killed my father? I don't know if it was murder or an accident, Kevin said. But she was there. And about 8 months ago, someone contacted me. Said they had evidence proving Elena was responsible for Thomas Chen's death. Said they'd go to the police unless I paid them. How much? $10,000 a month. That's where all my money's been going. Not gambling. Blackmail. And the guy following you? The blackmailer. Making sure I don't run. Making sure I keep paying. I sat down heavily in Dad's chair. How did you get the money? Dad cut you off. I've been borrowing. Credit cards, personal loans, everything. I'm drowning in debt, Victoria. When Dad died, I thought the inheritance would save me. But then, I found the real will, and I realized it was all going to you. So I made a choice. A terrible choice. You blackmailed Mom and David to hide the real will. I told Mom about the blackmail, about the evidence against her. I said if she didn't support the fake will, I'd let the blackmailer go to the police. She agreed. She convinced David to go along with it by threatening to expose him for malpractice. Apparently, Dad had mentioned something about David making mistakes on a case. Years ago. So all of this, the fake will, the witnesses, the accusations against me, it's all to protect Mom and to get money to pay the blackmailer. Victoria, I'm sorry. I know what I did was wrong. But I didn't know what else to do. If this person goes to the police with their evidence, Mom goes to prison. What evidence do they have? Kevin pulled out photos. Crime scene photos from 30 years ago. My father's body, a head wound, blood on the floor, and a note in Mom's handwriting. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. God forgive me. Mom wrote this? Apparently. The blackmailer says it's proof of guilt. Proof she killed Thomas and covered it up. I studied the photos, the note, trying to process everything. We need to know what really happened. We need to talk to Mom. She'll never admit it. Then we make her. Kevin, we can't keep paying this blackmailer forever. And I won't let Mom go to prison to protect Dad's legacy or your debts. We need the truth. We confronted Mom that night at her apartment. She looked terrified when she saw us together. Victoria, Kevin, what's wrong? I put the photos on her table. Tell us about Thomas Chen, about how he died. Mom went pale. How did you... Kevin, you promised. I'm sorry, Mom, but this has to stop. The blackmail, the lies, all of it. Mom sat down slowly, tears streaming down her face. You have to understand, it was an accident. I never meant to hurt him. Tell us what happened, I said gently. Mom took a shaky breath. Your father, Thomas, he had a temper. When he drank, he got violent. That night he came home drunk, started yelling, throwing things. He grabbed me, pushed me against the wall. I was terrified. Did he hit you? Many times over the years. That night, I fought back. I pushed him away, and he fell. Hit his head on the corner of the coffee table. There was so much blood. He wasn't moving. I panicked. Why didn't you call the police? Because I was afraid. Afraid they wouldn't believe it was self-defense. Afraid they'd take you away from me. So I cleaned up, made it look like he'd fallen while drunk, wrote that note in case anyone found out, in case I needed to explain. Then I hid the note, called 911, and said I'd found him unconscious. And they believed you? The medical examiner ruled it an accident. Death by blunt force trauma from a fall while intoxicated. They questioned me, but there was no evidence of foul play. The case was closed. Until someone found the note, Kevin said. I don't know how. I kept it hidden for 30 years. But 8 months ago, Kevin got a call. Someone had the note, the crime scene photos, everything. They wanted money to stay quiet. Who's blackmailing you? I don't know. Kevin handles all contact with them. I just wanted to protect our family. When Kevin found Robert's real will, he told me about the blackmail. He said if we didn't support the fake will, the blackmailer would destroy me. So I agreed. I'm sorry, Victoria. I'm so sorry. I sat there, looking at the woman who'd raised me, who'd protected me, who'd carried this terrible secret for 30 years. You should have told me, I said quietly, about Thomas, about what he did to you. You were 4 years old. How could I explain that your father was violent? That I'd caused his death, even accidentally? And you should have told me about the blackmail. Kevin was trying to handle it. I thought if we could just get through the estate settlement, Kevin would have enough money to pay off the blackmailer and make them go away. Mom, blackmailers don't go away. They keep asking for more. Kevin's been paying $10,000 a month for 8 months. How much more before it's never enough? I know it was wrong, but I didn't see another option. I looked at Kevin. Do you still have contact with the blackmailer? They call me from a burner phone. I can't trace it, but they call you, which means we can set a trap. Get the police involved. Mom grabbed my hand. Victoria, no. If the police find out, I'll go to prison. Not if it was self-defense. Mom, you were a victim. Thomas abused you. You fought back to protect yourself. That's not murder. That's survival. But the note I didn't mean to. That sounds like guilt, not self-defense. Or it sounds like a woman in shock, processing trauma. Mom, we can fight this, but you have to tell the truth. All of it. Mom looked between Kevin and me. What about Robert's will? What about the inheritance? The real will leaves everything to me. That's what Dad wanted. But Mom, I don't care about the money. Not if it means living with lies and blackmail. Kevin spoke up. Victoria, if you go to the police, you lose the inheritance. The fake will stands until the court rules otherwise, and I can't admit to blackmailing David without going to prison myself. You'll get nothing. I know. So why do it? Because it's the right thing. Because we can't let some blackmailer control our lives. And because, I looked at Mom, because you deserve to be free. Even if that means facing consequences. Mom was crying. Victoria, I can't let you sacrifice everything for me. You're my mother. You protected me my whole life. Now it's my turn. I went to the police the next morning with Patricia. We met with Detective Sarah Kim from the Seattle PD Cold Case Unit. My mother killed my father 30 years ago, I said. It was self-defense, but she covered it up. Now someone is blackmailing my family over it. I want to help you catch the blackmailer and clear my mother's name. Detective Kim listened to the whole story. Thomas's abuse, Mom's self-defense, the cover-up, the note, Kevin's blackmail payments. This is complicated, Kim said. Your mother committed a crime by covering up the death? Even if the original act was self-defense, the cover-up is obstruction of justice. I know, but she was a victim of domestic violence, terrified and traumatized. That has to count for something. It will, but I can't make promises about charges. What I can do is help you catch the blackmailer. If your brother is willing to cooperate. Kevin nodded. I'll do whatever you need. Next time the blackmailer calls, we'll trace it. Set up a meeting to exchange money. We'll be there to make the arrest. And my mother? She'll need to come in and give a statement. We'll review the original case file, the medical examiner's report, any evidence of abuse. If we can establish self-defense, the DA might be lenient. Might, Miss Chen, Your mother covered up a death for 30 years. That's serious. But given the circumstances, the abuse, the trauma, the time elapsed, I think we can make a case for reduced charges. Possibly manslaughter with a suspended sentence or probation. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. The blackmailer called Kevin 3 days later. I need $50,000, the voice said. Not $10,000, 50. Or I go to the police with everything. I don't have 50,000, Kevin said, phone on speaker in Detective Kim's office. Figure it out. You just inherited $40 million. That's tied up in probate. I can't access it. Then liquidate something. Borrow. I don't care. You have 1 week. Meet me at the marina, Pier 47, next Tuesday at midnight. Bring the cash, or I make the call. The line went dead. We've got him, Detective Kim said. Marina location, specific time. We'll have officers in place, unmarked cars, surveillance. When he shows up for the money, we make the arrest. Tuesday came. Kevin wore a wire and carried a duffel bag filled with marked bills, $50,000 provided by the police department. I waited with Detective Kim and her team in an unmarked van 200 yards from Pier 47. We could hear Kevin through the wire, hear his nervous breathing as he walked to the meeting spot. He's late, Kevin muttered. Stay calm, Kim's voice said through his earpiece. He'll show. 10 minutes passed. 15. Then, footsteps on the wooden pier. You brought the money? A man's voice. Older, familiar somehow. I brought it. Who are you? Why are you doing this? Because your mother deserves to pay for what she did. Thomas Chen was my brother. Elena killed him and walked free. I've waited 30 years for justice. My heart stopped. Thomas's brother. My uncle. Your brother abused her, Kevin said. She defended herself. That's her story. I don't believe it. Thomas had his problems, but he wasn't a killer. Elena is. And she's going to finally face consequences. Not tonight, Detective Kim said through the radio. Move in. Officers swarmed from all directions. My uncle, a man I'd never met, whose name I didn't even know, tried to run but was tackled before he made it 10 feet. My uncle's name was David Chen. He was 58, had been living in Portland, working as a mechanic. He'd spent 30 years believing Mom had murdered his brother in cold blood. I found the note in Thomas's things. After he died, David told the police. Elena had packed up his belongings, but she missed a box in the garage. The note was in there. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I knew she'd killed him, but the police had already closed the case. So I waited, kept the note, gathered evidence. And when I heard about Robert Morrison's death, saw that Kevin was inheriting millions, I saw my opportunity. To extort money from a family grieving their father? Detective Kim asked. To make Elena pay. The money was just a bonus. David Chen was charged with extortion, blackmail, and harassment. He took a plea deal, 5 years in prison. Mom's case was harder. The DA reviewed the evidence, the medical examiner's report, hospital records showing Elena had been treated for injuries consistent with domestic violence, testimony from neighbors who'd heard Thomas shouting. The original detective who'd worked the case, now retired, remembered Elena as terrified and traumatized. I always suspected it was self-defense, he said, but she stuck to her story about the accidental fall, and we had no evidence to contradict it. After 2 months of review, the DA offered a deal. Plead guilty to involuntary manslaughter and obstruction of justice. Receive a sentence of 2 years probation and community service. Mom took it. At the hearing, she gave a statement. I was a victim of domestic violence for 6 years. The night Thomas died, I was defending myself. But I was terrified of the police, of losing my daughter, of no one believing me. So I covered it up. I've lived with that guilt for 30 years. I'm sorry for lying. But I'm not sorry for surviving. The judge was sympathetic. Mrs. Morrison, domestic violence is a serious issue, and victims often feel they have no options. While your actions in covering up the death were wrong, I understand the circumstances. I'm accepting the DA's recommendation. 2 years probation, 500 hours community service, and mandatory counseling. Mom cried. I held her hand. It wasn't perfect, but it was justice tempered with mercy. With the criminal case resolved, we returned to the civil matter. The will. Kevin admitted to everything: the blackmail, the fake will, paying off witnesses. David Walsh, Dad's lawyer, corroborated the story and resigned from his firm in disgrace. The court invalidated the fake will and reinstated Dad's real will, the one leaving everything to me. But sitting in the courtroom, Listening to the judge declare me the heir to Dad's $40 million estate, I felt empty. This wasn't victory. This was just the end of a nightmare. After the hearing, Kevin approached me in the hallway. "Congratulations. You got what you wanted." "Did I?" "Kevin, none of this was about the money. Wasn't it? You fought for a year to contest the will." "I fought because I thought Dad had been manipulated. I fought because I didn't understand why he'd cut me out. But Kevin, I never wanted to destroy you to get it." "What does that mean?" "It means Dad raised me, but he was your father by blood. You have a claim to his legacy too. More than that, you're my brother. We've been through hell together. I don't want this money to be another thing that tears us apart. Victoria, the will leaves everything to you. Legally, it's yours. Then legally, I'm changing it. We're splitting it. 50-50. Kevin stared at me. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious." "But Kevin, there are conditions. You get half, but it goes into a trust. Managed by a financial advisor, you get a monthly allowance enough to live comfortably, but not enough to gamble away. The rest stays invested. And you get counseling, real counseling, for the gambling addiction." "Victoria, I don't know what to say. Say you'll do it. Say you'll get help. Say you'll stop the self-destructive behavior and actually become the person Dad hoped you'd be." Kevin's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you saved me. You could have kept the secret, kept the fake will, let me fight a losing battle for years. But you told me the truth. You exposed yourself to criminal charges to help Mom. That takes courage, Kevin. And it means you're not the person I thought you were. I've been a terrible brother, and I've been a judgmental sister. But we can be better, both of us." Kevin pulled me into a hug. "Thank you, Victoria. I won't let you down." 6 months later, I stood in Dad's study, my study, now looking at the framed photo on the desk. Dad and me, taken at my law school graduation. His arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling. "I hope I made you proud, Dad," I said quietly. The estate had been settled. Kevin was in therapy, hadn't gambled in 6 months, and was using his trust fund to go back to school for a business degree. Mom was completing her community service, volunteering at a domestic violence shelter, helping other women escape the situation she'd survived. And I was running Morrison & Associates, the law firm Dad had built from nothing. I'd also started a foundation, the Robert Morrison Foundation for Domestic Violence Survivors. We provided legal services, safe housing, and counseling for victims trying to escape abusive relationships. It felt right, using Dad's legacy to help people like Mom had been. Patricia called me one afternoon. "Victoria, I wanted to let you know the Washington State Bar just published their annual report on pro bono work. Morrison & Associates provided more free legal services to domestic violence victims than any other firm in the state. That's wonderful. Your father would be so proud. You've transformed his legacy. I'm just doing what he taught me. That the law isn't just about money or winning cases. It's about justice, about protecting people who can't protect themselves. He taught you well." Kevin stopped by the office that evening. He looked healthier, happier. "Hey, sis. Got a minute?" "Always." "What's up?" "I wanted to show you something." He pulled out a business plan. "I've been working on this in my entrepreneurship class. A nonprofit that helps recovering addicts find employment and housing. I thought maybe the foundation could partner with it." I read through the plan. It was detailed, thoughtful, well-researched. This wasn't the impulsive, self-destructive Kevin I'd known. This was someone who'd done the work, faced his demons, and was building something meaningful. "This is excellent, Kevin. Let's do it." "Really? Really?" Dad believed in second chances. "You've earned yours. I'm also 6 months sober from gambling. My therapist says I've made real progress. I'm proud of you, and I'm sorry for everything. For what I put you through, for the lies, for..." "Kevin, stop. We've both apologized enough. Now we move forward. Together." He smiled. "Together." That night, I drove to the cemetery where Dad was buried. I brought flowers, sunflowers, his favorite. "Hey, Dad, I know it's been a while since I visited. Things have been complicated." I sat on the bench near his grave, looking at the headstone. "Robert Morrison, beloved husband, father, mentor. I understand now why you did what you did with the will. You knew Kevin needed to hit rock bottom before he'd get help. You knew giving him money would just enable his addiction. So you left everything to me, trusting I'd do the right thing." The wind rustled through the trees. "You were right. Kevin's getting help, he's building something meaningful. And Mom is healing, finally dealing with the trauma she carried for 30 years. We're all better because you forced us to face the truth. I placed the flowers by his headstone. The foundation is doing well. We've helped over 200 families escape domestic violence. We've provided legal representation, safe housing, counseling. We're making a difference, Dad. The way you always wanted. I wiped away tears. I miss you, every day. But I'm grateful for the 25 years I had with you. You taught me to be strong, to fight for what's right, to value truth over comfort. Those lessons saved our family. I stood to leave, then turned back. And Dad, I hope wherever you are, you know that Kevin and I are okay. We're more than okay. We're family, real family, the kind that survives the worst and comes out stronger. I drove home as the sun set over Seattle, feeling at peace for the first time in a year. The inheritance battle was over. The truth had been revealed. The blackmailer was in prison. Mom was free. Kevin was healing. And Dad's legacy, the real legacy, not the money, lived on. In the foundation. In the lives we'd changed. In the family we'd rebuilt from the ashes of lies and pain. That was worth more than $40 million. That was priceless. This is Victoria Chen, reminding you that the truth is never easy, but it's always worth it. I could have kept quiet, could have taken the 40 million and let the lies continue, but that would have destroyed my family from the inside. Instead, I chose truth, exposed the blackmail, helped my mother face consequences for a 30-year-old cover-up, and discovered that my brother wasn't the enemy, he was a victim too. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't legal, they're moral, choosing between what benefits us and what's right. Between protecting ourselves and protecting the people we love, I chose love. And it cost me nothing but gave me everything. If this story resonated with you, like and subscribe for more stories about family, truth, and the complicated choices we make when everything is on the line. Leave a comment. Have you ever had to choose between self-interest and doing the right thing? What did you choose? What happened? Remember, inheritance isn't just about money. It's about values, integrity, and the example we set for the people who come after us. My father taught me that, and I'll spend the rest of my life living up to his example. Thanks for watching.